Oh my goodness, I'm way too used to the, what was that, like 4 years ago, where you're, no offense, Google, but
Little
waiting,
Bill.
waiting, waiting. Exactly. It's like, oh, we're live. Hello. I'm curious. Okay, this is totally random, but let me welcome everybody to Marketing Momentum with Charles and Deborah. Hi, Charles.
Hi, Deb. Everybody.
Um, Facebook Live. How fast does that go live? It's just random. It has nothing to do with our topic, but I'm just
It's a
curious.
bit of a process, right?
Okay.
So I think it I don't know if it counts it, it does count down 3, 2, 1, and then maybe a second lag in there, but
That's handy though. I know, was it on Camtasia? I think I turned it off on Camtasia, but the setting that actually will do that so you know that when it starts recording.
mhm.
Oh, it must be the screen recording. I use Camtasia more for the still images, it seems, than or the screenshots than the.
Yeah.
But okay, another topic. But although that is somewhat, I didn't plan the segue, but that is somewhat related to today's topic. And I could not figure out the proper verbiage for this. So by the time this posts, we'll have that. But how do marketers acquire images? That's the working title, if you will. What do you think, Charles? What's kind of your 2 cents on that?
Yeah, I guess okay, so I guess I'll talk from my own personal perspective first, and that is, a lot of what I end up doing day to day, and because a lot of what I do ends up being on screen. First of all, it's always going to be a screenshot, right? And that's always, being able to find a decent way to capture the screen. And we know that, I mean, that's changed dramatically over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when you have to have something that is more like a photograph, then I have not gone, and for whatever reason, I have not gone the route of going to a Getty or some of the other places. I tend to buy, a subscription where I don't know, maybe on average it's about $150 a year, and
Oh,
the
that's
images.
good. I'm like, I gotta ask you where you're getting. Sorry, when you get up, but
What I was going to say, I know that, for example, I see maybe the pictures, the images that you and the images that you get are probably going to be at level A, and probably if the membership that I'll buy year to year, or a membership that I'll buy, they're probably going to be at level B. They're okay. I wouldn't put them first quality. They all kind of look like, they're stock images, right? I guess the idea behind paying for a stock image is not supposed to look like it, but the ones, and so that has always been good enough for me. And I guess when I start to do something that requires more, I'll maybe try to go up and buy them on a per project basis and pay a little more.
mm-hmm. And that's how I started, was the per project or like the per image, and I was really watching the budget and the whole thing. And I use 123rd. I really don't remember why I chose them, but I've been using them, I think, since before I met you, Charles. I mean, it's been like back then they had I think they had big stock, but they didn't have nearly as many to choose from as they do today.
Yeah.
So I would pay $1 an image, and they still have that option. So you go pay like for 30 credits for $30. And Michael, I hope you're not my husband's not watching this. And that worked really well because I was just doing little blogs. I mean, time has changed even the last 8 years, whatever, sort of blogging. But I started to crave something a little bit better than the dollar image, because the dollar image was, compared to what we're doing now, I think you've seen it too, Charles, where blogs have changed. It used to be one little image added some color to the post, but now it's like you have the image crossing the whole page. You've got, they're mobile ready. They're really image heavy. And now all of a sudden the dollar image isn't quite doing it because it's very small. So of course, if with pixelation, if you're making it larger, you're going to have a lot of pixelation. The quality is going to go down. So we're looking at $2 or $3 an image. Isn't bad. So now I'm looking at my $30 is only going for 10 images instead of 30. When you compare that to, I think if you watch for a special, like $50 a month, I know that's a lot. But when you look at that, and within 2 days, I get 5 images a day. That's 10 images. All of a sudden, no, I don't want to be paying $50 a month. But on the flip
right.
side, I get some awesome images.
Yeah, yeah. And you sort of got to really be, um, I, it can put you in a, images have for me, just based on how I've used them. Um, as you have said, it keeps you having to look for a deal, and that kind of puts me in a consumer sort of mindset, right? So I'm reading my email kind of like trying to figure out what I can buy, as opposed to, sort of looking at how I should be looking at my competition or trying to figure out how to strategize. And I'm looking for a deal, and so it's like a totally different mindset. Kind of takes me out of what I'm trying to do, and so I think that's why I think I just opted for the subscription, even though it's B level, because at that point, then I'm not going to look for a Getty image, because first of all, I have to look for a good deal. Second of all, I've got to go and I've got to pay a lot for it. And I think, when you pay for it, obviously it's worth it, right? I mean, they're definitely, as you said, you're going to put an image in these days, websites now require, images at higher resolution, higher pixelation, and they do have to look good.
Yep. Definitely more so than it did even 8 years ago, where you could get by with almost like a little tiny Twitter profile pic size. But, I was thinking as you're talking, Charles, some of it you really have to evaluate your needs. Like, for example, I have 50 blogs. I think there's 46 that I'm actively writing for. And I know, don't go looking it up and say you haven't written a blog post. I'm not saying you, Charles, you even watching this. It's like, you didn't write for a month there. No, it's a little hard to manage 46. I'm making a valiant, New Year's resolution. What can I say? A valiant effort to really stick to it. I will spare you on all the geeky talk on how I've got stuff that triggers me on which one, not triggers me. That sounds like some mental disorder, but I mean, tells me which blog, I should be working on when. But with that, I have less time to find images, plus the variety. If they're all in the affiliate marketing arena, then it's more likely I could buy a package of the kind of make money package, and whether I want cartoon photos, whatever. But I've got some on medical. I think I mentioned that last week. Maybe I didn't, whatever it was, but that category. I've got photography. Mike has a photography blog, and while I tried to post his photos, sometimes I'm writing a quick article and he's not around to take the photo. Michael, I love his photos the best. So Michael, you can listen to that part, but he's way too humble. So it's like, well, no, I threw that away because it wasn't good enough. Dude, you seriously are better than anything. But so that's why we go to 123 app, not because it's better than Michael, but because he's too self-conscious on his art on that one. But and I'm babbling too much. But anyway, no, it's 46 different blogs. There's a beauty blog. There's a psychology blog. Right there, it's not going to be the same photo I have on Social Web Cafe or even socialwebcafe.tv. They're not going to share, maybe one here and there, but they're not going to share. So that's where I end up with the $50 a month, is because I have to grab one. Also, if you write for other people, the licensing I have with 123RF, I can use an image for clients. I can't resell it, but I can use it for client. I'm doing a lot of writing for other people, and they want pictures. And if they're going to replace it with their own, great, but it helps in presentation if you're writing for someone else to throw in a couple images.
That's an interesting thing. I always tell people that, I can't remember what I did. I think at one time I was going to do the kind of affiliate marketing. It's called CPA marketing. And at one point to do that, you had to have a virtual private server that was going to cost $197. But then I figured out at some point, okay, well, I'm not going to do this. Right? I'm not going to do CPA marketing. And so I reduced the price per month down to $50 a month. And then, and so what I came to find out when I talked to people is early on, I had baked into the cake, so to speak, paying for hosting on a monthly basis. And in talking to people now, I realize a lot of people don't do that. Like, they're buying hosting on the fly. And so I guess, some things are relevant, right? or relative. So for me, that $50 a month, I've been paying $50 a month just until this year. I bumped it up to $97. I've been paying that for years. And it's not a hardship. But for some people, though, the idea of paying that much for hosting on a regular basis is not, you know, something they want to do. And I think the same thing is about photos. It's kind of like, you know, if you're doing it every day, at some point for whatever you're using it for, that $50 is the cost of doing business. It's not even, you don't even think about it. It's kind of like, well, okay, this is the $50 I got to pay this month for this thing. And it's not good. It's not bad. It's not like you're looking for, you know, to cut you a break. It's like, okay, well, that's the $50 I pay for that. Whereas some people would think, well, that's ridiculous. Why would you pay $50 a month? You don't even use it all the time. We do now Creative Cloud, right? Do I use Creative Cloud every single day? No, but I wouldn't think of not having it. I wouldn't think of not paying the subscription. And it's not because the subscription is low or high. It's just that at some point I subscribed, it became a monthly expense, and that's sort of what I did. And I guess photos kind of fall into that same sort of thing to me.
Yeah, and you know, I went for a while where I didn't. I thought I've got a good enough collection, and fortunately with 123RF, you know, you can go, and probably others. I'm only saying that because that's my area of expertise as a consumer, but I can go search for something I've purchased before. The only problem is if the provider has decided to remove it and you go grab it later and you haven't downloaded it. I mean, that's a whole nother thing you have to balance, because when I download them to kind of trigger that I've used that credit, I'm downloading probably the second layer. You know, it's like the 800 pixels wide, because that's what I'm going to be more likely to use in my post. I don't want the one that's 2100 pixels wide, because I'm going to have to resize it. But if I don't get back there and download that one, the largest one, I've lost the value. Well, I mean, we're talking a few pennies, but still, I want to, hey, I paid for it, so I want to have the largest version. So it's kind of depressing. I try not to pay too close attention when I go back. It's like, all right, I'm going to catch up. And it's like, oh no, that image is gone. Or, you know, I have to confess, Charles, I've been known to look up the image file name if I can find it. Not, I don't steal images, but if I paid for it and it's not there anymore, it's like, I'm going to go download that one and remove the watermark. And it's like, you know, I paid for that. So I have the proof that I purchased it. But anyway, no, you're right. You have to decide if it's worth it. With 46 blogs and with clients, I think I think anyone listening to that would say, yeah, that makes sense, because you just don't, it's a time thing. Oh, the other thing, I don't know if other sites have this, but, and no, I'm not being paid for some advertising at 123RF. They have a custom editing process that it's been around, I feel like it's been around over a year, but I don't have the exact quote on that. But you can click on it and actually select the social image size. And you can even edit it, but I used to teach Photoshop, so I get really persnickety on like, oh, that font's not quite right, or that's not, you know, whatever. So you're evaluating the time, the resources, and the money, and the whole thing. So I go get all the sizes, I download them, then I pop them into Photoshop just because it's quicker. I have templates in there. I grab, you know, depending on what website it is, I go to that folder on my computer, grab the logo, you know, paste it on there, put the text, and now I've got social images ready. And I usually, what I've been doing, my new system this year, is loading them into the post even before I write the post. Get it out of the way, don't have to worry about it. So see, things like that, they're probably not a concern if you are not writing for other people and you don't have 46 blogs.
Right. And you know, that's interesting, because again, I mean, some of this I just talked about hosting. You know, and this could go back to the time we were both in the blogging group. It was just one of those conversations that, you know, you just kind of catch. And someone was talking about the fact that, you know, it's sort of difficult to go back in time to figure out, you know, when you don't need an image in a post anymore, you know, what are you going to do with that image, right? It stays on, it continues to take up space on your server. And eventually you're going to run out because of something that you did back in 1906, right? And so at some point, the size of the image matters, because if you put everything in there and you put all these huge images in there, sure, you can shrink it with WordPress. Before you know it, you know, you're sort of running out of space, because I think that the ease of using something like WordPress is deceptive. If you have, because you think, oh, I can shrink the size to make it look right, but you're not really shrinking the size.
Yeah. It just like your hard drive. You see, that's part of the reason I could go through every day, 5 images a day, download the largest one so I have it, don't have to worry about later not having it, and the other size that I could use right away. But another reason I don't is because it fills up my computer space. I mean, it's amazing how fast it fills up with the images. So I actually have an external hard drive where I put, but it takes some work and cataloging and blah, blah, blah. I went to download some drum tracks that I bought for Christmas for Michael. And I was like, I think I downloaded like just one. He'd ordered, I don't know, 20 or 30 different kind of packages of, I just said drum kits. I meant, what do I mean, Charles? The little sound files. Okay, I'm a musician. I don't know what I'm talking about, but obviously, that he can load in for the projects. But I downloaded one. It was like 5 gig, and I thought, I like to have copies of what he has, but maybe I don't need copies of what he has. Maybe I could just let him have all the drum stuff because it's gonna just fill up my hard drive.
Right, and now, it wasn't so much of an issue when we were not necessarily. I mean, there was a period where you go and you get a 1 terabyte sort of external hard drive. You thought, well, man, I'm really rolling in it now. I'm just going to download everything, and now it's starting to fill up. And now I think just like you can't fill your house up with a bunch of stuff. Now it's kind of like, well, you're paying for cloud storage, so having a lot of stuff, even in the digital world, eventually catches up with you, right? You can fill up cloud drives. You can run out of space. You can pay more because you got to have more space. And so, no, it's not an immediate concern right now, but it eventually will be.
Well, that's why I started using YouTube. I think I used to keep like every revision of, Marketing Momentum, all of the different things. Even when I was doing my blog guest, it's like, all right, this is revision 1, 2, 3, whatever. Then I realized that, I'm just going to keep the Final Cut Pro file, and I can always spawn off if I need it. I can spawn off another, because unless I've gone in and changed anything, it's going to come out with basically the same video. But otherwise, I depend on YouTube. And YouTube, I hope you never go away, but you're taking care of some of the storage for the videos.
Right. Man, and again, I mean, I guess what was a few years back, it sounded kind of high and lofty and good. Retain a copy of everything because you never know what's going to happen with YouTube. YouTube will go away. They could change your mind. Always retain a copy. And now you're just kind of like, well, I hope nothing happens. I'm not saving all that stuff. I hope they don't do anything to my video.
I don't know if you do this, Charles, but I've looked at some and it's like, it's not that good. If I lost it, I'll just upload it, and if it's gone, well, whatever.
Right? Yeah. I just hope they don't do anything to it. Exactly. I'm not saving 3 copies of this.
And by the way, when you're talking about hosting, I was like, oh, good. I'm not the only one paying that. I'm not just, I'm not going to judge anyone with $5 hosting, whatever. I couldn't do it. I had to go get and even now I'm still, analyzing speed, all that. But I know this isn't an episode about hosting, but I'm up there about that amount on what I pay for my server. And it's basically a cloud server. It's a full server where I have access to, the back end, everything, because I'm such a geek. But it's basically on the cloud.
But see, I think if I had known I was really paying more than everybody else, I probably would have done it. Right? Only reason I started paying $50, that was years ago, is because I came down from $197. I said, oh, well, this is a lot cheaper than $197 a month.
That makes a lot of sense. And when I was looking at, I used to have GoDaddy, and I still recommend GoDaddy. I had their dedicated server, and I think I've said this on Marketing Momentum. There's one little thing I couldn't do with Root. And remember, I used to run a hosting company, so the idea of locking my hands behind me where I can't do something as far as server, just really, you just don't want to see me in that state. So I was happy with GoDaddy for a long time, still recommend them, but there was just one thing I couldn't do with the Root access. But now that I've actually moved and I'm with DigitalOcean, I love them, but their cost is probably twice what I was paying GoDaddy. So it's like, did you really need that one? Look at the cost.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. I think I was paying I want to almost say 36, maybe 45, but it was a lot cheaper than what I'm paying now. So I'm at least twice that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So maybe we need to do another episode on that. But
that's right. Yeah.
You also, before we go, I'll touch on a couple kind of slightly referenced. We were talking about buying stock images, but also there's the do-it-yourself draw. My daughter draws. I love her drawings. Maybe it's because she's my daughter. No, actually she really is that good. But It's where I say, honey, go take a picture of that, and I'll use it on the. It's like, where's the picture? You know, it's like 6 months later. But anyway, if you have someone who's an artist, that's an option.
Oh
We
yeah,
draw things
absolutely.
for you. Um, Michael's, I've used some of his photos and things. So if you know someone who's a photographer, or if you do either of those, and I'm not trying to do the talking for you, Charles. I'm just trying to the bullet items on here. But you've hired some people. I don't want to insult if it's a woman. I think it's a guy that does some of the graphics for some of your projects. He does a really nice job
Hmm.
of the drawings and things. So that's another option is to hire someone.
Yeah, and I guess, if I had to have something um that I was going to sell on the other end, I'd probably hire it out. Now, if I'm going to have something on a blog, I think it's cool if I use one of the other methods, or if I try to choose it sometimes, right? And I guess sometimes, and I think now, it was funny. I was just talking to that same designer, and he was saying he was sort of showing me some of the people who are the same as me and doing the same thing as me. He said, "Well, look at their." He was trying to sell me, on doing this branding site. And so I said, "Well, I don't think I'm a brandable at that part." And so he started showing me some of the other people who are doing some of the same things I'm doing. They say, "Well, look at their site, and then look at yours." And so,
That's not very nice.
right,
It's real business, but
right. He had a good point. Um, so, and I think when it comes to that, I think then, again, I mean, we're information marketers. We don't have a lot that's tangible, and those images are sometimes the only thing that's tangible. And sometimes I don't always want to be pushed into doing something because I'm chasing everybody.
right,
So I think
right.
sometimes it does take the ability to kind of look at things and evaluate them and say, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this looks good, before I have to make it look good, because that's when you're really going to pay more.
So it really comes down to more of a personal business decision and kind of evaluating, balancing everything as far as the needs. And one other thing before we close out our session, it's not complete if we don't throw Fiverr in there.
Oh yeah.
Although on that, I'm not really a big Fiverr person. How do I say this politically correct? As far as you get what you pay for, I think I'll just
Hmm.
put it out there. But I did find a guy. I think his name is Hal. I don't know if he's still doing this, but he's done probably I want to say 10 to 15 of the logos for my 46 blogs. And I took design classes. I'm okay with like layout, Photoshop, but when it comes to coming up with a logo, I kind of look at it and go, well, I don't know. I know what I want for the brand, but I don't want. And this guy I was just looking at today, the Chic Beauty, and I'm not saying this to advertise, but chicbeautytips.com. Hal came up with the logo for that. And I was looking at it today because I was adding it to an image. I thought, for $5, you just can't. It's a great.
Correct.
It's got the right colors, and I think I told him that like I want pink and blue, and he came back with this. But I was looking at just this week. He's done a phenomenal job, and you can't beat $5 per logo. So, I
Yeah,
don't know.
and I guess the fact of the matter is you'd have paid more than that, right?
Oh,
It just
definitely.
happened to cost $5. But here's a case where, I mean, you didn't have to try to be a designer. And I guess more than anything else, right? I mean, it's like everything else. Um, everybody thinks they can do everything, and then they get you. For example, everybody thinks they can write, and then they get your writing. They say, "Oh well, I think I'm gonna let them do the writing," right? So,
See, I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you, Charles.
no, no, I mean, but you know what I mean. So somebody says, "Well, I'm gonna write this ebook," and then it looks like they wrote it. Right? It sounds like they. Then they say, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna hire Deb to write it because it will sound like I wrote it."
That's me with drawing. I said maybe I can do a stick person. I can teach Photoshop, but don't have me draw. That's
Right.
Mike or my daughter because you don't want my drawings at all. But if this guy is still like I hate to say about Hal just in case 99 others on Fiverr are not that good. I mean, I would call that luck. I think more than Fiverr, finding Hal was luck because the wait, am I doing this? No, I did that backwards. I can't do this. Okay, there we go. There we go. I'm getting closer. I can do it. There we go. That logo was not Hal's. That one I called up a friend that had done Albumet, and I said, "Hey, I was just thinking of coming up with something for my new brand, Social Web Cafe. Do you have any ideas?" And so I I think I've told this before. A week later, we get this, this huge painting. Like I can't even do it on the screen because it's huge in the mail. And then she's like, "Oh yeah, that's $400." Well, of course we paid it. We have the painting in our bedroom. I don't know if that's an appropriate thing to say on marketing momentum, but it's on one.
No idea. Right? Yes.
It's like she's worth it. We have other paintings by her. I mean, no doubt she's worth the $400. But it was like, I mean, I was kind of looking for like what would you charge for this?
Do you have the $50 version?
Exactly. So, Liliana, that's her name. She's from San Luis Obispo. So, absolutely worth it. Her art is beautiful. We have it throughout the house, but that cost me a pretty penny for that logo. That's why I adjust it for Hangout Queen Social Web Cafe TV. You see it in a few because we're going to get our
right. You have to get your money's worth, right? Yes,
exactly. And you can't see the whole thing, but if we go, I don't know if I go down further because the way that's cropped, let's not go down further. But she actually has a computer and something else musical. So I mean, Liliana did the whole interpretation as far as my computer, the music, the whole thing. But of course, we just wanted that part of it for the logo. But yeah, so that's buyer beware. When you're ordering something, make sure you have a contract on that so you know what you're spending. And sometimes it's worth the extra money, and sometimes the $5 Hal's logos.
Yeah.
So, anything to add to that? I didn't mean to monopolize that last.
No, I think that's just the truth, right? I mean, it's just at some point, if you can't do it. I mean, there are ways that you can find. I mean, everything is individual, right? It's what it's worth to you to have it done.
Yep, and that can the whole nother episode, or maybe in the article summary, but that could be your time resources, your talent resources. Like I said, I can't draw or save my life. All different things that you have to evaluate.
Right. That's right. Yep.
Anyway, I've actually run out of babble. So with that, thank you for joining us for Marketing Momentum. And we'll see you same time, same place next week. Thanks, Charles.
All right. Bye-bye, Deb. Bye-bye, everybody.